It was the month of June. The scorching Texas afternoon heat was unbearable. The hot gust of wind blew relentlessly, and the old ceiling fan overhead hummed with a continuous aching ground. A few days had passed since the start of the summer school break, but for me, this vacation brought no joy. It felt like a long, tedious punishment. I was my parents' only child, with no brother or sister to spend time with. Most of my days were spent sitting by my bedroom window, watching the neighborhood kids play outside in the lawn. Hearing their laughter, their loud chatter, and watching them run freely created a deep longing in my heart. How I wish I had someone to play with too. Back then, I was about 12 years old, and my entire world was confined to a few books, notebook, and my small bedroom. Then, on one particular afternoon, the house landline rang. Suddenly, my mother picked up the receiver quickly, and within a few moments, a radiant joy appeared on her face that I hadn't seen in days. She kept smiling, talking warmly, and sharing wonderful news as soon as she hung up. She practically hurried toward the living room where my grandmother was sitting with her reading glasses on, quietly reciting her prayers with her rosary beads. It was a call from Aunt Sarah. Someone was coming. Hearing this, my grandmother's face lit up with immediate joy. Really? After all these years? Meanwhile, my father had just returned home from his office, setting his files down on the dining table. Hearing the conversation, he exclaimed happily, "That is fantastic news. Life and joy will return to this house again." I listened to their conversation in silence, not understanding for a few moments who this Ethan was, whose arrival news had completely transformed the atmosphere of the entire home. Then it suddenly clicked: Ethan was my Aunt Sarah's son, my cousin. Perhaps he had visited our home once or twice during our early childhood, but we were so little back then that I couldn't clearly recall what he looked like. My mother said joyfully he'll be staying with us for 3 whole months, and in the final month, Sarah will join him so they can spend the rest of the vacation together. 3 whole months. Hearing those words sent a wave of pure excitement through my heart. I wouldn't be lonely anymore. I would finally have someone to talk with and spend time with. Overwhelmed by this joy, I gathered my books immediately and ran to the kitchen to help my mother. She looked at me in the surprise and said, "My, are not you being so obedient today?" I simply smiled back. An unusual impatience took root in my heart, making the next 2 days feel almost unbearable to pass. I kept running to the front door to peek outside at the driveway constantly, checking the clock and going over to ask my grandmother the very same question. "Grandma, when is Ethan going to get here?" She would chuckle and say, "Sweetheart, be patient. He will arrive by tomorrow evening." But every passing minute felt like hours. During this waiting period, an idea crossed my mind. I retrieved my small piggy bank saving that I had been collecting for months, walked down to the neighborhood convenience store, and bought a few chocolate bars, cookies, and candy to me. Those were not just ordinary treats. They were my very first welcome gift from my cousin Ethan. I kept pulling the small box out to admire it before carefully putting it away again. Finally, the day arrived, late in the afternoon. My father pulled the car out of the driveway and said, "Come on, Zoya, let's head to the station." I was already dressed and sitting ready. The drive felt much longer than usual, but we finally reached the train station. The platform was packed with crowd, porters rushing around carrying heavy luggage, children shouting, and passengers waiting impatiently for their trains. A few moments later, the train whistle echoed from a distance, and my heart began to beat wildly. The train slowly screeched to a half along the platform, and people began disembarking from every door. I scan every face intently, and then suddenly my eyes catch a young man. He was tall, fair complexion, wearing a simple pair of denim jeans and a light blue t-shirt, carrying a confident smile that could instantly captivate anyone. My father stepped forward immediately and gave him a warm hug. I stood a short distance away, watching silently. Suddenly, his eyes fell on me. He smiled, waved his hand, and said, "How are you doing, Zoya? Do you remember me?" His voice carried a strange, comforting warmth. In an instant, my shyness melted away. I offered a gentle smile and replied, "Yes, Ethan." On our way back, my father pulled the car up in front of an ice cream parlor. The three of us sat together and enjoyed our ice cream. Ethan kept asking my about my school, my studies, my friends, and my hobbies, and I happily answered every single question with sheer excitement. When we finally arrived home, my mother and grandmother welcomed him with overwhelming love and affection. It felt as though a deeply cherished member of the family had returned home after many long years. That night, I went to my room early and eventually fell asleep. But just before drifting off, a single thought lingered in my mind. These next 3 months might turn out to be the best vacation of my life. I had absolutely no idea that these exact 3 months were about to alter the course of my life forever. After Ethan's arrival, the entire mood of the house underwent a complete transformation. The home that used to be steeped in silence was now constantly filled with light-hearted laughter for one reason or another. Grandma would sit next to Ethan all day, sharing stories from his childhood, occasionally recalling his naughty antics and laughing along. My mother was busy cooking his favorite meal while my father, upon returning from the office in the evening, would often take him out into town, and I was no longer lonely before. Most of my time was spent in Ethan's company. Our bond felt genuinely like that of an older brother and his younger sister. He helped me with my homework, explained difficult math problems, and taught me new English vocabulary. In the evening, we would all sit out on the porch to enjoy the cool breeze or take short walks down the street. It felt as though the biggest void in my life had finally been filled, and I found myself smiling constantly. One day, he bought me his favorite book and said, "Read this. You are going to love it." I accepted the book happily and said, "Thank you, Ethan." He cut me softly and said, "Don't thank me so much. We are family." That phrase resonated deeply with me. Perhaps from that day on, a special sense of trust toward him began to grow in my heart. My family was happy too, seeing that I was no longer isolated and sad as I used to be. However, gradually subtle things began to shift at first. He would just sit with me and talk, but now he started sitting uncomfortably close to me. Quite often, whenever I was reading a book, he would lean right over my shoulder to look at the page. One afternoon, while I was reading my science textbook, he came over, sat right beside me, and asked, "Didn't you get this question?" I shook my head. He pulled my chair closer to his and began explaining it to me. While explaining, he took hold of my hand to guide my pen, showing me how to hold it correctly. It was a mundane gesture, but for some unknown reason, a strange wave of confusion and embarrassment surged within my heart. I pulled my hand back immediately. I pulled my hand back immediately. He laughed it off and said, "Oh, come on. I'm little brother to you. What's with all this shyness?" I forced a chuckle too, but that faint discomfort that had stirred inside me didn't go away. A few days later, another incident occurred. I was watering the potted plants in the yard when Ethan walked over and said, "Zoya, you have grown up so much compared to before." I looked at him in surprise. "Really?" "Yes, you're not a little child anymore," he said with a smile. I couldn't quite grasp what he meant by that remark. But for the very first time, I felt his gaze was somehow different. That night, I stayed awake for a long time, overthinking those exact words. After a few weeks, a new routine established itself. In the evening, while everyone else was busy with their chores, the two of us would sit in the living room or out in the yard talking for hours. He would share stories about his hometown, tell me about his friends, and talk about his future dreams. While I shared my innocent little wishes with him, I started feeling as though one in the world understood me better than he did. Late one night, long after everyone in the house had gone to sleep, a soft knock sounded at my bedroom door. I opened it to find Ethan standing there. Can't sleep? He asked in a low voice. I shook my head. Come on, let's go sit outside in the garden. We both walked out quietly into the yard. Moonlight washed over the entire lawn and the night air was noticeably cooler. We sat on the grass engaging in a long conversation about everything: childhood, school, favorite food, and future dreams. In the middle of our talk, we completely lost track of time. As I was heading back toward my room, a sudden thought struck me. What if mom sees us right now? I froze for a second, but then reasoned with my own heart. He's just my cousin. After all, what could possibly be wrong with this? I didn't realize back then that sometimes the beginning of a wrong path appears entirely normal. Following that night, Ethan began spending time with me more with frequently, showering me with compliments. Your smile is so pretty. Your hair is so beautiful. You're so smart. Initially, receiving this compliment pleased me, as praise at that age makes any child happy. But slowly, I sensed his tone and manner of speaking shifting. One afternoon, while the rest of the family was resting, I was playing with my dolls in the room. Ethan came to doorway, smiled and said, Zoya, want to play a game? I got excited instantly. What game? He smiled slightly and said, Let's play house husband and wife. Innocent as I was, I asked, How do we play that? He sat down in front of me. You be the mommy and I'll be the daddy. Just like you see your mom and dad. To me, it sounded like a routine childhood pretend game. After all, we all played house as kids, so I agreed right away. I pulled out my toys. He said plastic cup, plates, and small play stuff. I pretended to cook food while he acted as the husband returning home from work. He would pretend to open the door, say, Honey, I'm home, and I would laughingly reply, Welcome back, dinner is ready. Then we would both laugh. This game continued in this manner for several days. On the surface, everything appeared harmless, and the family felt that two young kids were simply playing together. But I had no idea that beneath the guise of this very game, a net was being woven. A net whose goal wasn't play, but something sinister. Back then, I was too young to comprehend that boundary at all. In the beginning, playing house really did feel like an ordinary children's game. I would make pretend meals with my plastic kitchen toys, set the table, and Ethan would play the husband coming home from work. We laughed, joked, and time flew by, but after a few weeks, I noticed the nature of the game suddenly changing. Ethan no longer just talked about coming home from work and eating dinner. He started asking probing questions that fell far outside my understanding. One day, while we were playing as usual, he sat on the couch and said, Zoya, you know that mom and dad love each other more than anything, right? I nodded innocently, yes. And they share everything with each other, don't they? I remained silent at that moment. I didn't sense anything explicitly wrong with the conversation, but looking back now, he was systematically conditioning my mind in a specific direction. On another evening, the family was preoccupied with daily tasks. Grandma was reading in her room, mom was in the kitchen, and dad had stepped out to run as errand. I was sitting in my bedroom reading a storybook when Ethan walked in and sat close beside me. What are you reading? I held the book out towards him. He glanced at the pages, but within a moment, his focus shifted entirely into me. You have really changed, Zoya, he murmured softly. I asked in surprise, how? You are not that little kid anymore. His gaze began making me feel intensely uncomfortable. I immediately changed the topic, but for the very first time that day, an unknown dread lodged itself in my heart. I stayed awake for hours that night, those exact words repeating continuously in my mind. Eventually, I convinced myself that I was probably thinking after all. He was my cousin and everyone in the family trusted him completely. A few days later, an incident occurred that my mother uneasy for the first time. It was early afternoon, extremely hot outside, and most of the household was resting. I was in my room when Ethan came in and sat right next to me. We were talking when my mother walked in unexpectedly. She took one look at us, a stern expression settling onto her face. She didn't say anything immediately. Instead, she simply motioned for me to follow her into the kitchen. I followed her, and once inside, she closed the kitchen door quietly and turned to me. Zoya, can I ask you something? I nodded. You have been spending a lot of time alone with Ethan lately, haven't you? I was confused. Yes, but he's my cousin. My mother took a deep breath. Sweetheart, boundaries are very necessary in relationships. I couldn't fully wrap my head around her words. What do you mean, Mom? Stayed silent for a few seconds before adding, I just don't want you sitting along with him in a closed room for long periods. An comfortable annoyance surged inside me. I felt as though my mother was trying to create unnecessary distance between us without any reason. But why, I asked, my tone bordering on protest. My look in my mother's eyes was filled with deep concern. Because you are still very young and I am your mother. I went silent at the time. I felt her words were harsh, but in the truth, she was trying to protect me. When I returned to my room, Ethan asked me immediately, what was your mom saying? I told him everything. He remained quiet for a moment, then gave a slight reassuring smile. Your mom is just worrying way too much. There is a special sweetness in our bond. Don't worry about it. It's just you and me. I dropped the topic, trying to adopt his mindset. But after that day, a confusing internal struggle began within me. No one hand was my mother, whose warning made me feel uneasy, and on the other hand was Ethan, who kept reassuring me that he was my closest friend. I couldn't figure out who was right. Meanwhile, preparation began for my older cousin's upcoming wedding. The atmosphere of celebration swept over the whole family. Everywhere there was excitement, fitting clothes, shopping trip, wedding invitation, and home preparation. The house was constantly filled with visiting relatives, with my mother and grandmother tied up in the chores. Aidan found even more opportunities to talk to me privately. For one of the wedding events, a beautiful, vibrant pink dress was tailored for me. It was my very first time dressing up like that. I styled my hair, put on bangles, and stood in front of the mirror looking at my reflection. Suddenly, the door opened and Ethan walked in. He looked at me for a few moments and said, You look truly different today. I smiled shyly, but for a reason I couldn't explain, that familiar discomfort from his gaze returned the same uneasy feeling that had been building inside me over the past weeks. At the wedding venue, there was bright light, laughter, music, and celebration everywhere. Yet, despite all the noise, a silent terror lurked within my heart, a fear I couldn't completely comprehend myself. I just felt that something was shifting and that shift was not good. The tripping point came on a day when my mother and father grandmother had to step out briefly, leaving the house completely silent. The heavy sound of the front door close echoed in my ears, and an immediate wave of anxiety took hold of me. For some reason, my gut kept telling me that something was going to go terribly wrong today. I sat in my room with an open textbook, but I couldn't process a single word. A few moments later, there was a soft knock at the door. Zoya. It was Ethan's voice. I stayed quiet, but he called out again, slowly opened the door, and stepped inside. He had that same artificial smile on his face, but today there was something in his eyes that terrified me. Why are you scared? He asked. No one is home today, we can talk comfortably. I wanted to stand up immediately and make a run for the door, but he stepped forward, blocking my exit path. Let me go, I said in a trembling voice. He mocked me with a dry laugh and brought up the old game again. Listening to him, it became crystal clear that everything about this was wrong, and my mother's warning rang loudly in my ears. I stated firmly, no, I don't want to do any of this. Seeing my refusal, his expression altered instantly. He attempted to manipulate and pressure me, alternating between emotional guilt trap and flashes of anger. But now, amidst the terror, a spirit of resistance woke up inside me. Spotting a split second opening, I broke away from his reach and bolted toward the door. He lunged after me, but at that exact second, the sound of a car pulling up into the driveway echoed outside. My parents and grandmother had returned unexpectedly after having to cut their errand short. I ran with all the strength left in me, reached the hallway, and threw myself sobbing directly into my mother's arm. Mom, save me. Seeing my hysterical state, my mother's face turned pale. My father grasped the gravity of the situation instantly and confronted Ethan with severe sternness. Ethan immediately began manufacturing excuses, but I gathered every ounce of my courage and disclosed everything. Truthfully, word for word, a profound, suffocating silence fell over the house. Anger, anguish, and utter shame crossed my father's face. Without hesitation, he dialed 911 and reported him to the police immediately. A short while later, officers arrived and took Ethan into custody. As he was being led away, he kept turning around to look back at me. But this time, instead of casting my eyes down in fear, I learned to keep my head held high and stand firm. That day, I realized that silence is never a solution, and that raising your voice against wrongdoing is true courage, no matter how close that person might be to you. Following Ethan's arrest, a somber cloud hung over our home for days. My mother stayed glued to my side constantly, never leaving me alone for even a moment. My father tried to put on a brave face, but I knew he was crushed inside, plagued by guilt that his daughter had experienced such terror under his own roof. Remorse was evident in my grandmother's tearful eyes as she repeated, we never realized things had gone this far. A few days later, Aunt Sarah and her husband arrived. When the truth was disclosed to them, the ground shattered beneath their feet. Aunt Sarah wept controllably, apologizing to me over and over again, even though she bore no blame for his action. She confronted Ethan fiercely, but he stood there with a bow head, completely silent. After the legal proceeding progressed, my father decided that teaching the right lesson was far more important than protecting family pride. Ethan was released into his parents' custody pending further legal action. But before they left, my father made it explicitly clear that Ethan was never to step foot near our family or home again. As he left, Ethan looked at me one last time, not with remorse, but with a bitter sense of defeat. This time I felt zero fear under his gaze. I had understood that silence gives power to cruelty, while speaking the truth sets a person free. Life was not easy for several months following the event. Nightmares haunted me, and the slightest sudden noise would shadow my closed doors. Empty room and quiet afternoon triggered intense anxiety. But my mother and father never let go of my hand. They reassured me continuously that none of this was my fault, but rather the fault of a predator who attempted to exploit innocent trust. With time, I began rebuilding my strength and emotional balance. I poured myself into my studies, picked up hobbies I love, and gradually re engaged with life. Though that bitter memory never vanished entirely, it forged me into a much stronger person. Today, when I reflect on that past, I feel strongly that a child's silence should never be ignored. Under such circumstances, if a child suddenly changes, seeks isolation, becomes fearful, or shows abnormal anxiety around a specific individual, the family must listen to them. Trust is a beautiful bond, but not all trust is safe. Some people attempt to psychologically manipulate others by taking advantage of love, affection, and proximity. And it is crucial to recognize such behavior in time and speak out against it. Even today, I thank God that my parents returned home at that exact moment. If they had been delayed by even a few minutes that day, my entire life might have been scared permanently. That experience taught me a lesson I will never forget. Silence does not offer protection, but the courage to speak the truth brings a person out of the darkest shadow and into the light.